Do we need more restrictions to be put in place before the end of the year? And if not, are we going to pay the price in January? Joining me now are people who have to decide on those sort of rules, the Conservative MP Henry Smith and the Labour MP Rupa Huq. Rupa Huq, what do you reckon right now? Have we got too much restriction, too little restriction, or are we in the right place?
I think it was sensible that the government moved on mask wearing in shops and in transport settings. I think they could go further on things like sick pay and ventilation, because again, hands, face, space, ventilate or aerate was meant to be one of them. And again, sometimes it looks a little bit knee-jerk when they do stuff. We were talking about masks for ages, and it looks like, our Prime Minister quite often has been seen in hospitals, various settings without one. And they better decide what they are doing on Christmas, because it's getting pretty soon. 18th, I think we're due for a decision. People need to know, people need to plan.
What about you, Mr. Smith? Do you think you voted that we've gone too far already? Is that still your view? Rupa Huq, till we sort out Henry Smith there. And Rupa Huq, what about suggestions that maybe we need to have compulsory vaccinations because that's the way of fighting COVID disease?
I think compulsion is a very un-British way of doing things. I mean, I was actually against the compulsory vaccination of care workers and NHS staff as well, because both of those are two sectors in which we've got a lot of staff shortages. You don't want to scare people off. And same with the general public. I just don't think it's the way we do these things in this country to sort of to compel people to do things. But if you persuade and cajole, I mean, the fact that, as it said in the Sunday Times yesterday, 90% of people in intensive care beds at the moment are people who haven't been vaccinated, that should be a pretty good advert. So I think, us MPs, since the vaccination was first hatched almost a year ago, I think, we have been in our communities trying to persuade. I think that's the way to do it, not to force anyone.
No, oh dear. I'm sorry about that. We've lost Mr. Smith. We'll try and get him back. The argument about compulsory vaccinations is that appears to be the way that our European neighbours are going. Austria's already gone that. Germany's gone that way. Ursula von der Leyen is talking about it. If they do it, it might become impossible for us to resist, mightn't it?
Look, they were some of these countries are occupied during wartime and they carry ID cards. And again, that's something that we don't have. It's not the British way. I just feel that, again, to get on a plane, to do many things, I think nowadays football matches, my son went to see Chelsea the other day. Actually, he's under 18, so he didn't need it in the end. But anyway, for a lot of things in daily life, you do need to. For the Labour Party conference this year, you had to bring proof of vaccination. So I think these things will hopefully even out in the end anyway, that people will, the penny will drop and they'll see that it's the only thing to do. But I just wouldn't go as far as making people do it. Because
that's the other argument, that vaccine passports may be the way to encourage people to get vaccinated if there's significant things, entertainment, sporting events, even restaurants that they miss out on. Would you be in favour of that?
Within reason. I do feel for the hospitality sector because, again, this last-minute knee-jerk stuff that the government always does. In 2020, when this first hit, I remember, the Prime Minister's guidance was that avoid restaurants, but yet he didn't compel them to close. So what message does that send out to someone who's got to have their staff team in, they've got all the laundry and everything, the tablecloths all out, and then the Prime Minister is saying don't turn up. So, I do feel for them, and this is their sort of busiest time of the year, so I don't know if I would... I think if people are sensible internally, if you're having a family gathering, you're all in the same bubble anyway, so you can sit around a table in a restaurant. And again, it's the scale of things. If it's a huge, enormous thing with 650 MPs, then no, don't do it.
Something we haven't had a vote on because it was introduced by the government over the weekend is coming into force tomorrow, which is tests before boarding a plane to come to the United Kingdom. Is that something that Labour supports?
Yeah, Labour was urging for this before it happened. And again, 2 weeks in a row, these changes have been sneaked out 6 p.m. on a Saturday. and it doesn't give people time to prepare. The last week, actually, I got caught. I was in Kyrgyzstan for election observation on behalf of the UK. And the rule changed, I think, overnight for me because it was a different time zone. It was 6 hours ahead. It's very expensive to get these tests as well. I know I've been abroad a couple of times this year. And then to get a short notice one, even more. I think the day 2 one, the nearest one to me locally in Ealing, so this is not anywhere fancy, is £100. And I had to move it forward. So again, I think someone needs to look at I think it's perfectly sensible before you get on the plane and after that you're tested. And we know that variants are going to come, and this is how they circulate overseas. People bring them back. But someone needs to look at the cost of these tests. Because
there are quite a lot of experts, including scientists who are worried about the state of the nation's health, who are actually saying it's not a very effective way at this stage of the outbreak to control the spread.
I mean, I just think it's that extra bit of certainty, because look, where did all these variants come from? South Africa, from Brazil. We don't know where the next one is coming from. Omicron also from, I just think it makes perfect sense. And to be honest, every time I've had to go on a plane, I've had to do one anyway. I thought it was already there, and maybe it's just the destinations I went to.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Rupa Huq, for joining us. And also apologies and thanks to Henry Smith, who had those technical problems.